Welcome back to Boxing Scene today. I'm Ricardo Celis here with champions Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi. Today, gentlemen, we have to talk about the great card that we had last Saturday at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, where the Gervonta Tank Davis got a draw against Lamonta Roach. Chris, you were there. What do you think about the card?
The card was actually great. It was actually a top to bottom, very good card. Even the preliminary bouts were really good. I mean, the venue was packed. I mean, from the floor to the ceiling. I mean, every seat, nothing was curtained off. I believe the gate was 19,000, over 19,000 people. Yeah, no. In terms of the fights themselves, it was an electric night.
Yeah, you know what I like too. You try to take different things from a fight night, you know, and like obviously the glaring thing is okay, the knockdown, no knockdown, you know, the fight in the main event and whatnot.
The drama.
But really, that drama, of course, kind of steals that thunder. But if you really look at the card from a boxing perspective, you know, we got two guys who kind of pushed themselves forward on Saturday night as guys who are now must see, you know, like look at me, I'm here, I'm arrived. And in Lamont Roach's case, he was already a world champion, but he hadn't had that statement fight, right? And this was the statement fight. This was the statement performance that did that. So he sort of pushed himself forward on Saturday night. But you know who else did
Even with the draw.
Even with the draw. I mean, because a lot of people thought he
there.
won, and this the performance, and obviously coming in as a big underdog, and so on and so forth. But also, if you look at the co-main event, nobody expected Gary Antoine Russell to do that either. No. And that's something else that I think, and unfortunately, I think it's lost in the whole shuffle because of the controversy of the main event. Gary Antoine Russell was also an underdog in that fight, I believe. You know what I mean? And he dominated from the go.
Well, Russell was coming off of his first loss. He lost to Puello, who fought on the undercard.
Who himself also had a very tight nip and tuck fight with Sando Martin.
We'll get into that one. But so he's coming off a loss to Puello and was out of the ring for over a year.
Yeah.
So to come off your first loss and inactivity and to be as dialed in as he was against Rayo.
That's the anger brewing. That's the anger brewing.
Yeah,
when
bro, those Russell brothers, man,
Yeah.
they stay in the gym.
Yeah.
They're consummate professionals. They're always in great shape. They're always pushing each other. Even you know his brother Gary, he would fight once a year as well.
Yeah.
But he would put in.
I hope Gary
phenomenal
Antoine fights more than once a year, man. Because the 140-pound division has this fresh blood injection. We've known about Gary Antoine Russell, but this was the performance that again put him out there. Just like we knew about Lamont Roach, but this was the performance that sort of put him out there and now makes a lot more people understand who they are and really appreciate them.
Well, especially because Rayo Valenzuela, he just came from winning against Pitbull Cruz.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, Ricky. I was thinking about, Rayo had all the momentum going into this fight. He was a budding star. People loved him, because he took Isaac Cruz apart.
And also Rayo had a tough schedule coming up, man. I mean,
really tough schedule.
He
De Los Santos.
fought Colbert twice when Colbert was still hot. De Los Santos, who people forget about, is one of the best lightweights in the world. Everybody just phases you out when you're too good in this sport. Only in this sport can that happen.
A knockout of the year revenge fight against Colbert.
He lost to De Los Santos by knockout. Then he had a knockout of the year of revenge over Colbert, which was really put him forward. And then beating Pitbull Cruz by boxing in a way where we didn't think he could do that. I think now we were all so high on Valenzuela that we totally underestimated Gary Antoine Russell and everything that the Russells themselves stand for.
You think we underestimated him? I don't think so.
I mean, based on that performance, how do you not? You know what I mean? Like,
no, of course. But like I said before, he's coming off a loss, coming off a long layoff.
Did you think he would beat him like that?
No.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't even think they knew they were going to beat him like that. But there's a lot of question marks around Gary Russell. But there was always so much potential around him and so much. I don't want to say hype because he wasn't a very hyped fighter, but it was like, my God, this guy's gonna be something. This kid's really, really good. But Rayo, like we said, all the points you guys both made, but also he hooked up with Robert Garcia. He became like a new guy.
Yeah.
So Rayo is now like he was like a rejuvenated, rising from the ashes type fighter where now everyone's really excited about him. And then Russell goes out there and beats him pillar to post.
And you were waiting for Rayo to just come on. He never did. Russell just dominated and really made that statement win. And then it was overshadowed by, of course, the main event, which ends up being another statement performance by Lamont Roach.
It's not a bad thing when a great fight gets overshadowed.
Not necessarily. Yeah, of course. A great fighter's performance, because that wasn't even a great fight. That was a domination that he had on Valenzuela. But you know what? I feel like, Lamont Roach obviously won the night. But I feel like sometimes people are also forgetting about Gary Antoine Russell's performance. But Lamont Roach, so many different things, because this has been a perennial contender for so many years in the sport of boxing. Sort of has flown below the radar in that he's been a guy who's hung around there. He even won a world championship, but people weren't really talking about Lamont Roach.
He just won a world championship.
And let's face it, he won it at a lower weight class. And Tank, sort of brings him in opponents that you can kind of tell on paper aren't going to have much hope to win. And I tell you, he threw everybody by surprise, including Tank himself, I think.
But that's something that in my 30 years that I've been doing boxing in Spanish, I've been doing boxing in Spanish. I never seen something like this, like what Steve Willis did. Start doing the countdown in the 9th round, and then he saw that it was Gervonta Tank Davis.
You see enough boxing, Ricardo. You see everything. I go back to Mayweather and Zab Judah when you had the low blow.
They count down those as knockdowns.
No, but what I'm saying is, even in Mayweather Zab Judah, okay. You talk about a knockdown. There was a knockdown in that fight too. Mayweather goes down, and there is no count. Richard Steele doesn't give any count. So again, you sort of, if you look at these kind of situations, you sort of see the referee losing control early on. Yeah. And then it leads to something worse because
you saw Tank bullying the Willis.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I want to get to, champ. The thing is, early on, you see Tank give a big shoulder barge in the clinch to Lamont, and Lamont retaliates and he gets warned, and there's not even anything paid attention to that intentional shoulder barge, which should be an instant point because it's an on purpose harmful foul, so it's not like an accident. So that you don't even need a warning to take a point for something like that. That's on purpose. You take a point right there.
Right.
Not only doesn't he take a point, he doesn't even warn him. He warns Lamont for the retaliation. That sort of starts to cement that you don't have control of the fight, and then it typically, as usual, it spins out of control, and that ends up leading to later where Tank feels like I can take this, and I can take a timeout. I'm not going to pay for it. If you look at the Richard Steele situation with Zab and Floyd, he doesn't call the knockdown when Zab makes Floyd's glove touch, and all of a sudden you start to see, okay, this guy's not really calling it down the middle. He's going to lose control because fighters sense that while they're fighting, in the heat of action. And what happens later on? You get the intentional low blow by Zab. Roger Mayweather comes in the ring, because now everybody can just do whatever we want because, hey, this referee's not going to do anything, right? I mean, Roger already sees early in the fight that my nephew touched the ground with his glove and we didn't call a knockdown. We're going to give it away what we want. He sees the low blow. He comes in the ring.
I think it's a little different.
Comes in the ring. But it's the same map. What I'm saying, it's the same map. You start early. When you lose control of a fight, it starts early. If you don't take control of it, it's going to spin out of control.
I'm with you. I'm gonna piggyback off that. Gervonta's used to having his way, and he is a bit of a bully with he was doing it to Willis. He does it to the media, and I think he's so used to doing that, being able to pave his own
media
way.
Has no character. They got no backbone. For credentials, they'll bend over for anybody.
But I'm just saying, it's just what he does to people around him. He usually bullies his opponents as well. This fight, he couldn't do that. He was losing. He was losing
-1,000 underdogs.
He was losing control.
Plus 2,000 underdogs.
Tank was losing control of the fight. And that's why things started to get a little crazy. And he already has that position over the referees, and he's able to do that before. And we saw that kind of spiral out of control, just like you said. The ref lost control of that fight.
But talking about crazy, now the big controversy is the instant replay.
Yep.
I thought there was no instant replay in New York because they didn't use it in this fight, and it was so necessary to use instant replay. They said they had technical issues. How that happened, Chris?
So a lot of blame is coming down on the referee Willis, but it's not entirely him because there is rinse replay. There is sideline reffing. There are other people who could have got this. So Willis started counting immediately. We remember that, right? He goes down.
That's where it becomes glaring.
He starts counting, but then the ringside ref wasn't counting, so they missed the ball on that. Willis was on it, but then he pulled back on that, which was bad. But then also, you got to go to the ringside officials who are looking at the replay. And apparently there was technical difficulties, which I don't know what that means. And they said in the allotted time to make a decision on the replay, they ran out of time. So no decision was made.
It's really interesting because you know what? The New York Commission, it's not the first time they do this, right? I mean, we've had the issue with Garcia and Haney, but that was a different issue, right? But if you remember also, when Luis Ortiz and the Ortiz versus Wilder one fight, Luis Ortiz hurts Wilder at the bell. Mm-hmm. Remember Wilder gets like 2 minutes after the next break? Like the commission has to go in there, have a sandwich, maybe offer Wilder a drink, give him enough time to recover, and then the fight continues. And eventually Wilder ends up getting the knockout. So it's not the first time we see these shenanigans from the New York Commission where it's made to deceivingly look like it's on an accident. But if you catch too many patterns, now you start to think, all right, there's a little bit of foul play.
And oddly, it always goes towards the
A side.
The A side.
The A side. Because this technical issue, this technical difficulty for the instant replay is can cost Lamont Roach millions of dollars.
No, already has.
And I'll tell you what. I'll tell you something else. What you mentioned, Champ, was a great point. That the Steve Willis was counting. Then the outside the ring official timekeeper is supposed to pick up the count, and then the ref picks up the count from him. He hadn't counted, so Willis changed his mind. So in the moment, you only have an instant to decide, right? Willis's instinct was to do the right thing.
Yes.
Willis's instinct was to count.
He was right. He was right at first.
Was to count. His instinct was to do the right thing. Then, in a moment where you only have a split second to keep making that decision, his instinct was overturned by the manipulation coming from outside the ring. Because that's you clearly count that. I mean, that's not, look, we're losing microphones here and everything. But that's clearly something that you know, it's not debatable.
No, it was blatant. It was blatant. It was
and we
blatant.
mentioned
We all know the
situations like Famoso Hernandez versus Mayweather, and Mayweather hitting him on the head and taking a knee and getting counted. Miguel Cotto taking a knee against Antonio Margarito. You took a knee against Ruslan Provodnikov.
We all lost points. We all lost points.
Yeah, and you end up losing the round 10-8. In Cotto's case, it actually took the full count and got stopped. But regardless, there was never a controversy like, oh, they should have counted. No, nobody argued the fact they counted. You only argue the fact that there's no count. Yeah. Like, you actually went out of your way, if you're the New York Commission, to not do the right thing here, because it's obvious what the right thing would have been, and that is to count.
But not only we didn't have the instant replay, we didn't have the knockdown. What happened with Calvin Ford when he went into the ring?
Yeah,
well, not inside the ring.
Again, that adds to where you go back to Mayweather Judah.
Right.
Now, you got guys coming in the ring there. Eventually, once the referee loses control, if he doesn't take control, it becomes a free-for-all. And that's what ended up happening Saturday night.
Okay, so now let's talk about with Jose Rayo Valenzuela losing against Gary Russell in the co-main.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about that in the open in terms of how good Gary Russell is and where he can go. But also, I think this is an important time to talk about Puello. Very easy fight to make.
And Sandor Martin. Right.
Puello and Russell with the rematch is a makeable fight now.
Alberto Puello beat Gary Russell, gave him his first loss, and he was defending his own title then. Russell comes back, gets this fight with Rayo. Now he's a world champion. Yeah. Now we have a unification. They're both with PBC. Yeah. There's a rematch. There's a story. Seems like a really easy fight to make, and we are in the world of unifications. We're getting unifications all over the place. 140 is becoming a pretty deep weight class with some talented guys. So now you got Gary. Listen, I love Teofimo Lopez. For me, 140, that's the guy. But he's kind of edging towards being in super fights where he's looking for the John Ennis's. You know, he's fighting on
They're talking about Barboza.
He's fighting with he's defending his title against Barboza and May 2nd on the big Saudi card. But he's getting in New York, in Times Square. He's getting into the mix now with Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney. I think he's kind of elevated his way outside of the weight class. I don't see him.
I don't like that we even allow that.
That's ridiculous.
Sport. You know, like no, they shouldn't be like.
I don't see him going around and trying to collect the belts from all those tough 40 pounders. So Russell has a legitimate place to take over 140.
So do you think so? Or La Vispa Puello? La Vispa Puello also, the Dominican guy is really good.
Yeah, because the Puello has the first win over Russell.
Yeah. He does.
So you know what? There's a chance for both of them.
That version of Russell that we saw on Saturday night.
Listen, Puello was an upset the first time. Nobody thought Puello was gonna beat Russell.
That was the first time
I'll tell you what.
I saw Puello.
While we're gonna be on this matter, Sandor Martin better get another fight because it's enough times robbing him too.
I'll tell you right now, Paulie, he is not going to get another fight.
That was his last chance. You're gonna face him out like Edwin De Los Santos?
100%.
No, dude. That's what I'm saying. That's why we're here to complain about this crap. Can't do that.
I'm not happy about it. I'm just telling you what's going to happen. I said that night because I was watching.
You're a bunch of scumbags.
Sandor Martin, if you're listening, you fought a great fight. I could tell in his face he knew this was his last chance. It took him so long to get to that position.
Right.
And he had a really tough guy in front of him. He fought a really good fight. It was close. It was a very, very, very close fight. But Puello's an excellent fighter. He's a champion for a reason. Sandor's an excellent fighter who could be a champion. But
Sandor's never been beaten decisively.
No.
It's crazy. And you're just going to let a guy like that hang around?
Who is going to risk taking that fight now, Paulie?
You know what? Sandor deserves to command some money himself for the performances he's given, though. Make Sandor. I don't know. You're probably not going to make him against Pitbull because he'll probably outclass Pitbull.
Oh, absolutely.
So I don't even know what you do with him. But you can't just phase out a guy who's too good. You phase out guys who aren't good enough. You don't phase out guys
you're acting like
who are
this
too
has never
good.
been done before.
Yes, it's been done before, like Step Brothers. But I'm trying to freaking stop it. They did it to De Los Santos. De Los Santos has not fought since the Shakur fight, dude. That's crazy. The guy's a knockout win over Valenzuela. In the meantime, Valenzuela won and lost the world championship. This guy's a knockout win over him.
Hasn't
fought since. Yeah. That is disgusting.
Way too dangerous.
Scumbag of a sport and business.
And what do you think about the guy who fought in ProBox already, Jared Hurd?
So Jared Hurd and Rohan Gonzalez both fought on our air, and they fought each other. And Jared Hurd did an interview where he said, if I can't beat a guy like Gonzalez, I'm not going to fight anymore. I shouldn't be fighting anymore. And sure enough, he went out there and he lost, and he retired in the ring.
And ironically, Julian Williams also fought on the undercard
Yes.
against a very good Cuban prospect.
He yes, Tellez.
Tellez, and at one time, it sort of shows you how the clock moves. At one time, that was the biggest unification fight in the 154-pound division was Jarrett Hurd against Julian Williams. It was an incredible fight, and now it was almost sad to see them sort of like be phased out like that. But it's the way the business works. I understand. And they both fought with big hearts. They both fought big hearts. But
during the fight, I actually chatted that during the live chat. I said, at one time we had main events where Williams, J-Rock was fighting Jarrett Hurd for the unified title. Right. Now they're both on the undercard and possibly in the last fights of their career. Yeah. And Jarrett Hurd certainly is. And J-Rock, I don't know, we might not ever see him again either. They both might have retired together in the same, or at least had their last fight together.
Going back to the main event now, what's going to happen with Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach?
Well, so I think there's an appeal process going on. In terms of trying to get the fight overturned or at least a decision overturned, whatever. But regardless of that, listen. To me, it's already in the past. I want to see the future. I want to see the rematch. So that's where I'm at.
A rematch?
Fight again.
Yeah, rematch, and then the networks have to start putting their foot down with Gervonta Davis's opponents. He can't just keep handpicking opponents. If they knew Roach would have been this good, they would have never picked him. So even if let's say Roach comes out, Gervonta Davis comes out with the rematch win, you can't keep making them now handpick opponents where these odds are minus 2,000, minus 1,500, minus 1,000.
The thing is that Gervonta Davis, he's a huge crowd, man. He always brings
big fans. But then let's not complain when the big fights move to the East. Then let's not complain then, because if this is what we give the West and this is Western fans want, which is their favorite fighter against a no-hoper every time, just so they can go home happy. If you want to have this kind of hero worship, then we cannot complain when all the big fights are leaving the United States. Because if we put on this kind of garbage, then this was going to happen. We got lucky Saturday night. Lamont Roach was way more prepared. Gervonta was maybe underprepared. Whatever it is, you got to give Lamont Roach credit for making the fight more competitive than it was. But that was the intrigue. Going in, nobody cared about the main event. The main event, I thought the undercard was going to be way better than the main event.
We got to mention that this week we're going to have Lamont Roach here in Boxing Scene today. Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi, Ricardo Celis, thank you very much. Boxing Scene today.